Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
This is the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
This is Roger Stone, and this is the Roger Stone Show here on 70 WABC Radio. I hope you will go download the 77 WABC Radio app. That way, by loading it to your cell phone, you won't miss any of the great interviews, commentaries, or musical features that we have here on WABC Radio, where we're making AM radio great again. For example, you won't miss the commentary of my next guest. I think it was Milton Berle, an early comedian known to many of our older listeners as Mr. Television, who once said, "Drama is easy, it's comedy that's hard." My next guest makes comedy look easy. In fact, he makes it look effortless. One of the very few stand-up comics who can actually make me laugh out loud. It is my great privilege to honor and welcome Rob Schneider to the Roger Stone Show.
Well, thank you so much, Roger, for that lovely, what you just said was very, very nice. I will tell you, though, it's an interesting time for comedy because the stuff, usually you have to write your own comedy, but now it's pretty much you just read the newspaper or what newspapers people read. You just, like the climate protesters in Manhattan, they're protesting for climate. What they should all do, those protesters, they should go down to the beach and protest the ocean because most CO2s come from the ocean. So I think that's when I'll take them seriously as protesters. If they really care about the climate, they really want to get these, carbon levels down. They really got to get the ocean where the ocean's weakest, the beach.
For those who need a refresher, Rob Schneider is, of course, an alum of Saturday Night Live. He is an actor, a comedian, and does incredibly devastating stand-up. You may remember some of his biggest movies. My favorite, Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo, one of my favorite movies of all time. I had a guy working for me recently, a young guy, had never actually seen Animal House. I fired him immediately. Can you imagine?
I mean, again, that was a movie that wouldn't come out, that you couldn't get made today, which is a sad thing for young people today, where they're being too coddled and protected. And I really think that a movie to me, that were such hilarious movies that actually had, I think, the right ideology, which was like Blazing Saddles. It was really making fun of people on the prairie and their racism. And but just the idea of it's just the content, and it doesn't matter to the context anymore. It's the content, which is sad because I think movies that Blazing Saddles and also Animal House, which was a group of downtrodden guys who get revenge on a very strict dean, and it's those kind of things, which were, I would say, like some of the happiest moments. It kind of, was the foundation for so much comedy that came after, Blazing Saddles and Animal House. But some of the stuff that happens, like tonight, you have to look at it and you go, like, historically, like, Roger, if you look at Joe Biden and the Biden regime, I mean, it really is a Biden family crime syndicate, what's happening now. And if it wasn't the fact that 95% of all media is captured by this illiberal, liberal intelligentsia, he would just be under constant assault. But he's not. If you take a look, if you compare Joe Biden to Nixon. Nixon resigned, got impeached, and then later resigned for knowing and perhaps having a hand in the cover-up of the Watergate break-in. Now, if you compare that to Biden, you would have to say Biden is the equivalent of not only did he know about the break-in and help cover it up, but he participated in the break-in, broke in, and then after broke in and covered it up, got paid by the Chinese. So it's for me, it's another level. I can't believe that I don't think he'll make it through past February of next year.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
How does PwC take your company to the leading edge? They bring the sharpest minds in tech to your team, so you can bring the ideas that will transform your business. They're passionate about your industry, so you can walk into any room with every advantage. And they're with you every step of the way, so you can know you're headed in the right direction. PwC builds for what's next, so you can get there now. Get started at pwc.com/us/leading edge.
This episode is brought to you by Cadillac. When you have 4 new tires, every drive feels fresh. Right now, buy 3 select tires and get 1 for just $1 during the Cadillac Certified Service Fresh Start Tire event. Visit Cadillac.com/service offers or see dealer for full details. At participating U.S. GM dealers only. Highest or equal value tire will be $1. Offer ends 5/31/2025. Not available with other offers.
This episode is brought to you by Loom by Atlassian. Are you feeling stuck at work? Get your team unstuck with Loom video messaging and move work forward. Use Loom to simultaneously record both your screen and yourself to share a quick update, provide feedback, train a colleague, and everything in between. Plus, add Loom AI to your meetings for instant written notes and recordings. Try Loom today at Loom.com. That's LOOM.com.
Yeah, it is, if comparing Watergate and Obamagate, which is nothing less than the unauthorized use of the full legal authority of the U.S. government and the extraordinary capability of our intelligence services to spy on and then launch an illicit, illegal effort to remove a duly elected president. We now know definitively, thanks to Special Counsel John Durham, who took his sweet time, had to make sure the statute of limitations ran out so that the perpetrators of the most epic crime in American political history could not be prosecuted. There was no Russian collusion. And now you have, without any question, in the case of Joe Biden and the Biden crime family, evidence of extortion, bribery, racketeering, money laundering, illegal lobbying, influence peddling, multi-million-dollar payments to members of the Biden family, including Joe Biden, from China, from Russia, from Ukraine, specifically from a Ukrainian energy company that Joe was helping off by getting investigators and prosecutors off their trail, as well as Romania. We have a two-term justice system. If Donald Trump jaywalked next week, it would be front page on every newspaper in the country. It would lead the news on CNN and MSNBC. Yet Joe Biden and his family literally steal millions, trade public policy positions and his influence as vice president in return for millions of foreign dollars. Yet those in the media continue to tell us, oh, there's no proof. There's more than adequate proof.
Let's take them at their word, Roger. Let's just go and all the way down the Democratic line. Joe Biden, let's say he had absolutely nothing, did not benefit in any way. Just the fact that his whole family did, it makes him the dirtiest president who ever served. That's if he never received any money. I mean, that's how dirty and bad it is. And I can't believe you can't get one Democrat who would say that this is wrong. I mean, it really is like Soviet Politburo, time where you just don't have. They just vote in a block, the Democrats, and they just keep their head in the sand and just hope that they can just that the public has no imagination and has no curiosity. But I don't think it's going to last. I don't think it's going to maintain. I'm surprised that it's lasted this far, and I'm surprised at how egregious and how ugly and obvious it was in the Biden family's theft and abuse of privilege. I just don't know. I mean, I would think that at some point you would have somebody. I mean, the only person who's gently talking about it in the political sphere is on the Democrat side is Robert Kennedy. And I would love for him to dig a little deeper, but he's such a good, nice guy, and he doesn't want to get dirty with politics that I think that's to his detriment, because I think it requires somebody to just harp and stay on this, and somebody from the Democrat side, And I support Bobby Kennedy, and I hope that, unfortunately, you're really dealing with another crime syndicate, which is the Democratic National Committee, that is that can just they make their own rules. They don't only have Democrats, they have delegates, they have super delegates. And Robert was telling me something the other day, which was amazing, that if you are running for president and if you step into, I think it is New Hampshire or Iowa to campaign, then they won't count your delegates in Georgia. And that can't be right. Maybe I'm hearing that wrong.
No,
but it's that crazy.
No, that is exactly right. This is the main reason I wanted to have you on the show today. I had a very famous actor. You would know his name. Come to visit me in South Florida not long ago. Supporter of mine, a strong supporter of Robert Kennedy, as a matter of fact. I wanted to have dinner. I said, "Great. Where do you want to go?" He said, "Well, I'd really like to go someplace where we won't be seen." I said, "Pardon me?" He said, "Well, you know how it is. I mean, if I was seen having dinner with you, people might think that I like Donald Trump, which I do, or that I support Robert Kennedy, which I actually do, or that my politics are right of center, and then I wouldn't be able to get any work, and I'd be blackballed, and my life would fall apart." What I like about you, Rob, is I follow you on X, formerly known as Twitter, and whether it is digital currency or whether it is climate change and that hoax, or whether it is the transgender agenda, you speak from the heart, and you're a man of enormous courage. And therefore, your support of Robert Kennedy, who I admire enormously. Now, I've only met him once at a conference. If you watch some people on X, formerly known as Twitter, I'm his chief secret advisor, which is nonsensical. I admire him. I like the fact that he's the only Democrat who talks about sealing our southern border. He's the only Democrat who talks about health freedom. He's the only Democrat who is skeptical about shipping billions more to Ukraine. He's the only Democrat who talks about the hollowing out of our middle class and the fact that the cost of groceries, basic groceries, has increased by 76% since Joe Biden has been president. So I think he's a man of enormous courage. On the other hand, I agree with you. So the way I look at it is, as Frank Sinatra was to John Kennedy, President John Kennedy, Rob Schneider is to Robert F. Kennedy. You have been valiant in your advocacy, and I really salute you for that.
Well, I thank you for that. I mean, I think we have to ensure for the next generation of kids and children, one, their physical safety. And they're under threat by the health agencies, which is a revolving door between industry, big pharma, which is the real drug company. Forget about the Mexican drug cartels. That's just a few $1 billion. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars, hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars that the legal pharma does, and they control the recommendation advisory committee for vaccines. So the idea that, because here's what they did. They approved it, the COVID-19 shot for children. And they didn't do that because children are not susceptible to this thing. It is not a danger to children, COVID-19, unless they have real, unless they're taking cancer, have cancer or cancer treatments that have real immunological problems. which most kids don't, this is not an issue for them. But for big pharma, it is an issue because they have to have it on the child shot schedule, because if they do that, then they have no liability for any injuries at all. And so that's what. So that's why they cared about that. And so what you have there is you have a revolving door between industry and the regulatory agencies, which are supposed to protect the health and protect Americans. And what they're doing is they're just protecting the bottom line of big pharma, Pfizer, Moderna, and on these other companies, which are heavily owned by these giant conglomerates like BlackRock. And so what you have is you have someone who's willing to stand up against that, and I really admire him for that. And we have to, since when did the Democratic Party become the censorship party, the warmongering party? I don't understand where that transition took, and I don't understand why there is not one Democrat, not one, who will talk about the fact that there has been hundreds of thousands of dead Ukrainians. We're talking 350,000, which is a 6-month-old statistic. 5-month-old statistic. To make it for the people can understand in the United States, really, it's 7 Vietnams for us. We had 56,000 people, Americans, who died in Vietnam. You're talking 7 Vietnams. So how much is enough? It's like in any divorce. God bless, I love the Ukrainians. My grandmother's Ukrainian. But we're going to have, you're not going to get everything you want in this peace settlement, but there has to be peace. There has to be peace. And you can't continue the slaughter. And the fact that the Democrats that are wanting to continue this thing and pushing the world closer to a nuclear conflict, I can't believe it's happening. They're more concerned about handguns. They're more concerned about a slight temperature, which of course China and India won't have anything to do with the climate control. But the climate thing is another money grab. And it's another distraction. We have real problems in America that need to be handled, Roger. We have 54%. Another old statistic: 54% of our children have suffered from chronic illnesses that would have been when you and I were kids. They didn't have this. They didn't have childhood diabetes. They didn't have rheumatoid arthritis. They didn't have ADHD and autism. Autism now, which is 1 out of every 36 kids. So what we're doing is we really need to have specific things, and that's why I really think Robert Kennedy, is an important figure, win or lose, because at least these issues are being talked and discussed. He wants to stop. There's only 2 countries, Roger, that allow direct drug ads to consumers, and that is the great country of New Zealand and the United States. Only 2. Why only 2 in the entire world? Because it's wrong. You can't talk people into wanting to take drugs that maybe they don't need. But that's the power of the pharmaceutical industry. They pay for 85% of ads in a non-election year for all ads on television and the internet, all ads on radio, all ads everywhere in a non-election year. And they pay for. They're the majority of donors for political campaigns, not just the federal level, the state level. Every state congressman, every state assemblyman, senator at the state level gets money from pharma. And so it is a behemoth, and it is nothing short of bribery to push their drugs, which aren't making. We spend the most on drugs, Roger, in the country, and we have the most unhealthiest people. So at least with Robert Kennedy, I don't agree with him on guns, though he has moderated his position. I think guns are the fact that American citizens have 300 million guns is the only reason we were ever to climb out of that COVID tyranny. And it can only push us so far. And so I was never a big fan of guns. I didn't understand it until you see real tyranny and you understand why it's the Second Amendment and why the First Amendment to free speech is so important. You have the first one, which is free speech, which we all need, and everything falls apart. It's a house of cards without free speech. And you got guns right behind it because that backs up the free speech. And I really feel like now, at least with Robert Kennedy, we'll have a chance to have some of these things discussed as we move closer to the election. And I think it's going to help moderate even the Republicans to come around to these common sense issues that Robert Kennedy talks about.
Anyone can follow. It takes something special to be an original. which is why the 2025 Lincoln Navigator SUV arrives with new ways of surrounding you in luxury, including the ultra-wide 48-inch panoramic display and the multi-sensory Lincoln Rejuvenate experience. A true original never stops evolving. So meet the 2025 Navigator, the original that's all new and better than ever. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Lincoln and Navigator are trademarks of Ford or its affiliates.
Jif peanut butter. It's that jiffing good, it doesn't really need advertising. So instead, enjoy the calming sounds of the ocean. Jif. Ooh, it's that jiffing good. Get your Jif at Jif.com.
Your gut affects everything, even your mood. So Ollie created 2 brand new products to take care of your insides. Ollie Big 10 Probiotic has 10 strains of probiotics, their most ever, to support a healthy gut microbiome, immune system, and stress response. And Ollie Super Good Superfoods delivers 15 superfoods in tasty gummy form. Find them at ollie.com and exclusively at Walmart.
Ollie!
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Shopping is hard.
I can never find anything in my size.
I don't even know my size.
I buy my clothes the same place I buy my groceries.
There's a better way. Make it easy with Stitch Fix. Just share your size, style, budget, and done. Your personal stylist sends pieces picked just for you.
That was easy.
Stitch Fix. Online personal styling for everyone. Free shipping and returns. No subscription required. Get started today at StitchFix.com.
Folks, if you're just tuning in, I'm Roger Stone. This is The Roger Stone Show, and we are talking to one of the most talented and revered comedians in the country today, Rob Schneider, who is outspoken on a number of his beliefs, a strong and articulate supporter of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for the Democratic Party nomination. But if you just go to his feed on X, formerly known as Twitter, he is very articulate and fearless. Unlike so many in the show business area, he tells you exactly what he thinks, which leads me to my next question, Rob. How have you dealt with the issue of censorship, with shadow banning? Are there entertainment opportunities that you have lost because you've been so outspoken and so forthright?
I think I have, but like I said, the opportunities that I've already been given, I'm so grateful for that. I would just like to pass this on and make sure that my children and the children of today have those same opportunities to be able to speak their mind, to be able to have freedom of choice, to be able to be able to say what they want without some sort of government repercussions. I mean, that's the thing another thing that was so stunning to me was we have to speak up when there is actual tyranny. I felt it coming under the Obama administration where you had the unconstitutional, you had the president now, routinely now the presidents, and it's the Republicans and the Democrats now, because of the abdication of congressional leadership, they really have advocated to the president. So you have this kind of emperor now. And neither the Republicans or the Democrats want to take away these vast powers that the Patriot Act, the remaining parts of the Patriot Act that exist, because they don't want to have to deal with the reelection. They don't want to have to deal with making any choices or making legislation that can make them look bad for reelection. So they'd rather have just the president do it because they know he's got term limits. They don't. And their job is to keep getting reelected. So I really feel like I think especially people who have a voice need to stand up and speak for really the most basic of what makes our country great. Free speech, free choice, the ability to get a job and to serve that job and not have to give in to any sort of government mandates. And that's what really pushed me over the edge was the idea that you could get fired, that it's your body, your choice if you want to kill your baby. But if you want to protect yourself and not get an experimental gene therapy, then it's not your choice. You could lose your government job and they can fire you from the hospital. At that point, that is medical tyranny. And I think luckily people stood up for that, and people stood up to that, enough of them. And that's what we need, Roger. We need, like, if you take a look at the American Revolution, you didn't get 50% of the farmers, they were all farmers then, to stand up and fight the Brits. It was between 3 and 5%. So I think you're seeing now, Roger, 3 and 5%. And then when it comes to 15%, then you will see real change, and you'll see what Americans really want to retain in this great country, the greatest experiment in humankind, which is this idea of the individual and freedom, and that there's opportunity here. And that's why our borders are being overrun. People aren't running out of America. They're running to America. Why? Because it's the greatest country on earth, and it affords you the opportunity to, and which I want to fight to maintain. If you work your tail off, you can benefit from it. And who doesn't want to have that opportunity? But there's so many countries that, with such a closed system, and it's a constant fight between too much control and too much the ability to just do whatever you want. That's chaos. We don't want that. We're going to be a rule of law. We're going to continue laws. And that's what made the American Revolution so special, is that they didn't just discard everything from Britain. They kept the ability to own property, and they kept the same judicial system. So that was important. I mean, it was slightly changed, but the idea of justice was still there. And whereas the French Revolution, they just started cutting people's heads off. So I really feel that when there's a time to stand up, and the time is to stand up now. And for this next election that's coming up, it's important for people to get involved, and whoever you support, but support it, and just know that your voice needs to be heard, and to be fearless and stand up. And it may cost you something. It may cost me jobs, but I much prefer to that my grandchildren know that I stood up for what I love about this country, and I stood up for them, so that their freedoms that they'll hopefully continue to have as we move our way into the middle of this century.
People need to remember that those who were cutting off people's heads at the beginning of the French Revolution were the people who were getting their heads cut off at the end of the French Revolution. America Absolutely. Really is the last best bastion of hope for Western civilization. We can yet again be shining city on the hill, as Ronald Reagan called us. But you're absolutely right, Rob. It's all up for grabs in this next election. Now, we not only have to have a fair nomination process in both parties. I agree with you when you criticize the lockstep, brainless, zombie Marxist Democrats. But in all honesty, I think our real problem is not just the Democrats. It is the gutless, feckless, weak-kneed, lily-livered, white wine swilling, country club belonging establishment Republicans who don't seem to have any belly to fight for the country. The fact that no member of the Biden family has yet been subpoenaed to testify before Congress about the epic corruption of the Biden regime is just, it's mind-blowing. It really is mind-blowing.
Well, there is a cowardness. There's a real cowardice in Hollywood, because when I first got into acting, I thought, people, I would think that the executives want to make movies that they put their name on, they could be proud of, and that stood for something. And then I really, after years, you realize they don't work from that. They don't work from that perspective. They work like they know they're going to get fired from their cushy job. What will delay my inevitable firing the longest? And I have to say, Roger, it's the same thing with the Republicans now. It's like they are so fearful, and they just don't want to push the button or don't want to go too far. And I got to tell you, that cowardice is noted. And I really feel like that is, if they need to push this, they need to the fact that it isn't a drumbeat every day is really telling that the Republicans just don't have any backbone at this point. And you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it from the fourth estate. The media is cowed and completely 95% in the pockets of the Democrats. So you have a real crime family at the very top of the American political system that is not that is not completely under investigation. We really need to have this blown open, Because if it is in its worst case scenario that he did receive, that President Joe Biden did receive millions of dollars, this will be the biggest crime that any president has ever perpetrated on the American public.
Lights, camera, innovation. Walt Disney Studios chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to transform the movie-making process. Together, we kept a remote production hub in Hawaii and sync with a team in California to bring Lilo and Stitch to theaters this summer. This is picture-perfect collaboration. This is Walt Disney Studios with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Home means something different to everyone. But with Rocket Mortgage, home can mean even more. It can mean a college education, taming your high-interest debt, even a renovation. We've made it easier than ever to use your home equity. That home you worked so hard for, now it can work hard for you. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to find out more.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC, licensed in all 50 states. NMLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, streaming now only on Netflix.
Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel or that white chocolate mocha. Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
Yeah, no, there's no question. It makes Lyndon Johnson, who, he and his wife owned millions of stock in Bell Helicopter and Sikorsky, General Dynamics. They profiteered tens of millions of dollars on his escalation of the Vietnam War. This makes that look like small potatoes. This is actually selling your office, selling your authority to the highest bidder, and in some cases to foreign nations who are enemies of the United States. It will be the biggest scandal in American political history. However, and I said this at the top of the show, the only reason Speaker McCarthy finally moved towards an impeachment inquiry, that's not an impeachment. That's not enacting the articles of impeachment, which, by the way, took Nancy Pelosi exactly 5 days to do against Donald Trump, with no real evidence whatsoever of wrongdoing. But the Democrats keep saying, oh, you have no proof. We have more than adequate proof. And McCarthy wants to study the matter. None of that would not even have happened had Congressman Matt Gaetz not scheduled floor time for around noon late last week. And it made it very clear he was going to make a motion to vacate the chair, which means remove Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. Had Gaetz not taken that step, I still don't even think we'd have an impeachment inquiry. But the impeachment inquiry still has no teeth that the Congress doesn't currently have. It's basically it's a fugazi. It's a PR move to show people, oh, we're serious about this, without taking actual action. It is really, really shocking. Nothing less than shocking. Rob,
But I also think it's cover for them to say we have to fund and keep the government going because of this inquiry. So that's also a double cover for them too. So they don't have to do anything, and they can also say, but we're doing the inquiry, so we have to keep the inquiry going. We have to keep funding this bloated government. So it's really interesting. But I think the American people, I hope, are seeing this for what it is. And I'm all for term limits, and I'm all for kicking people out of office. I don't care what party you're in. I don't think you should serve that long. I don't think we should have dead bodies as senators in either party.
I could not agree more. Okay, I'm sorry we have to wrap this up. Rob, tell people where they can see you in the coming days and weeks.
Well, I'm going to be, you can go to robschneider.com where I'm performing and see where I'm at. And then the crowds have been crazy great because I think, you're not going to hear what you hear from what I say on television. So anyway, so it is nice where people come out and it really is a fun time. And it's jokes and it really is hopefully just, what it is a return to sanity. And most people in America are calm and good people, and they want to continue the same freedoms for their children. And so, it's a good evening and with a lot of good jokes, and we have a great time. So I hope people want to come out and see me perform. And it's a real pleasure, Roger, and thank you for being a real beacon of light during these times. I really appreciate you, and I have a ton of respect for you. So let's continue the good fight, and let's talk again soon.
All right, folks, go to robschneider.com. You can see where this incredibly gifted, talented entertainer is appearing. He can make me laugh out loud. I can't say that about many other comics today. And like me, he finds a lot of funny material in every day's news. Rob Schneider, thank you so much for joining us on The Roger Stone Show.
Plan on flying? In order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a real ID. Learn how to get your real ID today at tsa.gov/real ID or visit your local DMV.